No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Good evening, Baltimore. You're tuned in to Let's Talk here on WMSK Online Radio, where talk radio just got better. It's your girl, Tiana, also known as the Intellectual Vixen. And I'm here with my co-host, Malik, the Black Hippie. And your favorite cousin Cornbread has risen from the dead. He is back.
Oh my God. Stop.
He is back.
Stop.
Welcome back. We missed you. So if anybody was joining us last week, you know, Cornbread definitely pulled a, no call, no show on us. He claims that he told us he was going to be out last week, but I went ahead and looked at the text thread, and I checked it again today. It was no mention. You clearly said I will be there for the 19th show. But she was the MIA. Like, I was so worried about you. I put out a prayer call. I've told people to text you, make sure he's not on the side of the road, call the hospitals.
But this is what really happened, right? Ain't nobody text me or call me. So whoever you told, don't tell them next time if I get lost. Well, I ain't dependable, whoever that is. You hear me?
Are you okay?
Yeah, he said don't text it. He said don't text a call. Yeah.
Whoever y'all sent to
they failed miserably?
Yeah, they didn't do it.
Well, I'm just glad that you're back. We missed you. Everybody missed you. You don't have your sunglasses on. You came in here smelling all good.
I was on.
I always smell good.
Yeah. So how was everybody's weekend?
Cool.
It was cool.
It was cool. How was your Thanksgiving?
It was cool. I worked.
Y'all just sound so like, am I the only one that's just feeling like good today?
Well, you was on doing photo shoots and shit all weekend.
Right.
Trapping
hard. She had IG.
Was definitely showing off this weekend. Mama was showing the fuck off.
She was trapping hard on IG.
So hold on. So what was this photo shoot for?
Well, you know, shout out to Photos by Phelps. He's been for a couple years trying to get me to shoot with him, and y'all know I'm all shy and shit. Y'all know I'm shy, right?
Yeah, right. Bullshit.
Oh, did I mess up your joint?
No.
I'm all shy, so I finally was like, you know, fuck it. Like, I would always make excuses like, okay, I need to lose some more weight, or let me get back in the gym, or, you know, wait till summer. So, you know, I'm like...
Oh, you shy when? When are you shy?
I'm always shy. Y'all don't know me very well. Like, the Intellectual Vixen is my alter ego. You know how, like, not saying I'm Beyonce, because I don't want nobody coming for me. Like, Beyonce has her Sasha Fierce. So, Intellectual Vixen is like my alter ego.
Oh,
but
Beyonce's alter ego?
Beyonce.
Sasha Fierce is her alter
Sasha
ego.
Fierce.
Yeah, so I am shy. So I'm like, fuck it. You know what? Now or never. I'm 40. I'm fluffy.
Right.
And I'm feeling fucking sexy as fuck. So, like, why not?
That should be your, that should be like your tagline. 40,
Ooh, I gotta get this real quick. Hold on, y'all. Go ahead, keep talking.
I don't know. We talking about you. Who you talking to? Who that? Put them on air.
Hello?
Put them on
trap.
Yes, you're outside?
Trap. They done locked the guest out. Let them in.
Yeah, come on in.
Let them in.
Oh, so our guest is here.
Already.
All
right.
Let's get it. Let's get it done.
Already.
I'm sorry, y'all keep going.
You want to open the door for him? He don't know where
he's coming in. Sorry, I had to answer. I had to get to the guest. So anyway, I feel like every woman...
You don't know what to do.
Okay, can y'all get up and... There we go. See, y'all, this man is running for Baltimore City State's attorney. Y'all don't think that he knows how to follow direction and follow the room? And I know he might be a man, but give him more credit than that.
God.
He's running for Baltimore City State's attorney. I gave him directions. He knows how to get into the room.
Tiana don't like men.
Right.
Anyway, as I was saying, oh Lord Jesus, let me take a sip. Cornbread is definitely motherfucking bad. I had this shit when you was
here. What I do? I literally didn't do anything.
I do. Yo, you did. You missed Brave Williams though.
Oh, right.
Like she's fine as all outdoors, bro.
And he was on his best behavior.
Yeah, I heard a couple of her songs before. I'm not that. She from Baltimore?
Yeah.
I heard a few songs.
It was no rants. It was no bitches. It was no cursing. He was
I said the word bitch one time.
He was so mild mannered. I'm like, is this Malik? He's never gonna live that down.
Well, not with you.
No.
Thank you, Cornbread.
Yeah, she ain't gonna let that down.
He's not gonna live it down.
Right, thank you, Cornbread.
But like I was saying, I think that every woman should have a point where they just have a fucking I'm fluffy photo shoot. Just get it out the way. Fuck it, I'm fluffy.
I'm 40, fluffy, and fuck it.
Fuck it, I'm 40, fluffy.
The 3 F's of
and
life.
sexy as fuck.
So stop cutting.
And everybody should just have it.
Stop cutting with this candidate in the building.
I don't think he minds. Nice to meet you. Have a seat. Join us.
How you doing, man? Cornelius. How you doing?
I'm DeMar, Elite, whatever you want to call me. Yeah, look at you. You just, forget
I
my
do?
phone.
She put her whole phone, her makeup case in front of your shit.
Right, my makeup case get more love than
Y'all know the rules though. Y'all know the rules.
Where you buy your makeup from? Ulta or some shit?
Ulta. Well, why do you know about Ulta? No, I know about my makeup from Ulta. But what do you know about Ulta?
Why wouldn't I know women.
You know women?
I know about stuff.
You know women?
In your life.
right.
Why wouldn't I know about it?
You obviously don't know women too much if you say Ulta.
I'm asking you. I gave you an option.
No.
Don't come.
What are the other options?
You
Why do you like fighting with me? You're back and you want to fight. We have company here.
You
And
came
when
for
we
me.
have company,
I said Ulta, then you
we
said,
are
why you
supposed
know
to be
about
on
Ulta?
our,
Why
look like
wouldn't I
Honey
know
Pot
about
Rob.
Ulta?
Honey Pot Rob said, here we go.
I don't care
And
about
she said
Honey
she's
Pot.
already coming for you for asking about my site.
Tell Honey Pot to pull up.
We have company in the house, and when we have company, we have to be on our best behavior. And that means I have to look professional, so I have to go get my glasses. Everybody can go ahead and do the introduction. I gotta pretend like I'm professional.
You already not looking professional by not having the glasses on my site.
Right.
What glasses at? You need to pull your life together.
I know.
Get your makeup case together.
She's still stuck in that photo.
I'm still stuck in that photo shoot.
Drive out here to the track.
Did you see her photo? You see her
Don't
photo
put me out there like that to the possible future Baltimore City State's attorney. Don't do that.
I'm saying, I mean, we 40, fluffy and fucking. I mean,
40, fluffy and fucking.
Right.
You missed that, sir. He said that every woman supposedly should have a moment in life where she's 40, fucking, and fluffy.
No, not 40 fucking and
40,
fluffy.
fluffy and fucking.
No.
Oh, Jesus.
No,
Oh,
fluffy 40 and sexy as fuck. And the fuck it, I'm 40 photo shoot. Get it right, get it right.
Okay.
All right, so.
Well, that's gonna be
Oh
the
my
tagline
goodness,
going
this is
forward.
so embarrassing.
Somebody, whoever listening to make the t-shirts for Tiana.
So we have a guest in the house. So everyone, let's give it up for our guest.
Ivan Bates, who is running for Baltimore City. I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera around. So if anybody that joined us last week, our discussion was about Baltimore. We're going to continue the discussion. You missed it last week.
I apologize.
So we were talking about Baltimore, all the recent events that was going on in our city. That's been, especially the death of Detective Suter. We were talking about accountability on this show. We're all about accountability and what we can do to make sure that we have some part in healing our city, finding out what we can do to make the city better. And one of those things that we talk about is always voting, right? And getting to know who your, let me move this out of the way. And getting to know who your candidates are. That's a big thing with us, and I don't think that enough people get involved in the political process. So we like to invite you guys here so they can get to know you on a more personal level, know what you stand for, and know what you have planned for the city. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Wow. Hello everybody. My name is Ivan Bates. I guess for the past 22 years I've been in Baltimore City. I've been involved in the criminal justice system as either a prosecutor for 6 years, law clerk for a year before that, and since 2002 I've been a criminal defense attorney. So I've been on both sides of the aisle, done a lot, seen a lot in Baltimore City. And so I think I bring a pretty unique background to everything. Before then, I I didn't grow up and wasn't born or raised in Baltimore, but had an aunt who lived here. And so my father, he was in the military when he was around, and when I say we was around, meaning we weren't in Germany or some other country. We come and spend time in Baltimore, a city that always meant something to me from that. And my mother, when she left home, she lived with my aunt up here on the west side, then she left. So Baltimore was always a city that kind of meant something to me. And after I went to, my father retired from the military down in Virginia. Then I joined the Army, was in the Army for 2 years. I didn't pay a lot of attention to the books that they had in high school. But from there, I went to the Army. Then the Army, I realized I didn't like digging ditches. So, my best friend back in the day was at Howard, and she sent me, and this was before the internet, so I'm telling y'all how old I am. So she sent me some pictures of Howard, and I was like, wow. So I applied, I went to Howard, graduated from there. I went down to William & Mary Law School. I moved back to Baltimore. I moved up to Baltimore in '95. Just a little background of who I am. Been involved in the criminal justice system. I've done every type of case, from prosecuting murderers to you name it, to defending cases. I've done about between 120 to 150 murder cases. I've done
in Baltimore,
all around the country.
Okay.
I've done federal cases, state case. I had a big federal case out in San Francisco, a case called Silk Road. Did that. Bitcoins and things like that. So
you was involved in Silk Road. Okay.
I was.
We gonna talk about that.
So yeah, I did that.
That was the Bitcoins you said?
Yeah, you remember Silk Road?
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to Silk Road.
So you mentioned, when I was reading about you mentioned your aunt Edna, and you talked about how you saw that how she was paralyzed from the fear of the crime that was going on in Baltimore. And this was over 20 years ago. How do you think, what has changed since then, if anything?
Back then there was a little more of a consciousness in terms of the criminal element. You really didn't hurt elderly people. You didn't hurt children.
Right.
You weren't so brazen with the shootings and the murders. Back then, if they were going to shoot you, they would sit down and kind of watch you, stalk you, and then find you in the dark when you really weren't around anybody. Now they shoot you in the middle of the day.
Right.
There's no code. The code is gone. And so when I was a prosecutor, there was a code. Right. And like very few people really wanted to cooperate. Now everybody's snitching. And the other thing that's amazing is the code, dudes who wanted to hustle, they would hustle when I was a defense attorney, and that's what they did. They weren't about the guns, they weren't about the violence. Now I think more of them feel they have to carry the guns to protect themselves. So you see the violence. The younger kids kind of, I think, would listen to the older kids. So you have the older guys who are involved in the game. I think they would try to tell them what to do and what not to do, and they would listen. Now the young boys, they're going to take over what they're going to take over because it's their time. So you see a lot of the violence and the brazen, just the anger that they have. And so you see the violence on a different level. When my aunt, she was mugged, he was a person using drugs, he took her purse. But he didn't push her down, he didn't kick her, he didn't shoot her, he just took her purse. But now that same elderly woman would have her purse taken, he would curse her out, he'd probably shoot her, and then run off and think it was funny. And so you see a different type of mentality doing those crimes.
Right. And so do you feel that do we have any room to kind of intercede in some ways? Did we miss the ball on some things in that 20-something years since, you mentioned your aunt?
Well, I think in some ways we did. You have a whole generation of kids that the systems failed them, that mass incarceration, they see their parents and fathers in jail, they're angry, they're upset. The school system has failed the kids. But the one thing that I realized, when you become a defense attorney, one of the things I realized is the streets don't respect you unless you give them a reason to respect you. And so what has happened now, the criminal justice system doesn't demand respect in Baltimore City. Out in Baltimore County, the same thing, they're not robbing and shooting and jacking people because they're going to go to prison. And they know that.
What do you think the difference is, though? Why is the culture so dramatically different in Baltimore City opposed to Baltimore County?
Well, you know what? It's interesting because to me, it can all be kind of traced back down to what happened with the Freddie Gray case.
Okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and get into it. Perfect time. Perfect time.
Here we go.
Here we go.
First of all, what happened with Freddie, without doubt, is a tragedy. Being a black man, I get it, I understand. When I first moved to Baltimore, before I was a brand new state's attorney, I got jacked up by the police. It wasn't until my badge from me being a state's attorney fell out that they looked at me differently. So I totally understand that. But what happened with the Freddie Gray was when our current state's attorney got out there and announced the charges the way she did, I think the streets looked at her as a fighter. But when she never got in the courtroom and tried a case and was always sitting back where the rest of the citizens were sitting, and the case just unfolded and fell apart, the streets lost respect at that moment in time. One of the things I've learned being an attorney, the streets respect you for the fight. You may not win the case, but you got to get in them rings and you got to fight.
Right. So was that a case that you would have tried based on the evidence?
There's a number, you have to investigate that case thoroughly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, you did your research, so you know I represent Sergeant Alicia White.
Right.
Based on the evidence that was there for Sergeant Alicia White, it was terrible.
Okay.
Absolutely terrible.
Okay.
To do that type of case, and so when you sit down, look, why am I running? People ask, why you running, why you running, why you running? I've been blessed, I got an amazing criminal practice. I do know the streets and the community look at me as one of the top criminal defense attorneys, so I get it, I understand. But I also recognize right now kids are dying. I used to have maybe 1 or 2 kids who died a year. Now I got 5, 6, 7.
Wow. Yeah.
So I think we got to have somebody who really understands the streets and who understands the cases and who understands the system. If you're going to prosecute a police officer, it's not like you can't, but for you to do it, you have to understand the case, you have to understand the evidence, and then you can't just hurry up and throw it. It's not like microwave prosecution.
Right.
You have to take 4, 5, 6, 7 months. You have to sit down with all your experts. Your experts have to explain your theory, and you have to understand everything as you go through the process. A perfect example, you wanted to hold the police responsible because they didn't seatbelt Mr. Gray. Well, when you sit down and you look at it, if you talk to any of the dudes who ever were arrested, none of them were ever seatbelt. So for them, you lost the streets because they were like, wait, you going after them and they didn't about seatbelting. I ain't never been seatbelted. And nothing happened to me. So therefore, you have to understand. Then another thing you understand is the general order for the police didn't change until 2 days earlier, but the police were never told about it.
Right.
And so once you, that's why you take your time to put your case together so you can't allow the individuals you prosecuting to escape through those quote unquote holes.
Would you think it was an emotional reaction versus a well thought out kind of methodical?
Saying that you think that Marilyn Mosby ran on emotions as far as
I mean that's when I first saw it.
Officers.
Yeah, when I first saw it come out and everything, I wasn't, I'm not from Baltimore, but it was a national situation. So I was like, oh man, like it seemed like it was more emotional. Like I'm going to pull up to represent for whoever versus actually have a strong case. It was just I'm going to make sure they pay. Like it's about me versus about kind of resolving what's going on or saying, hey, look, this looks like a legitimate case that we can solve.
And so a lot of Baltimore City police officers were kind of disenfranchised once this case went to trial. I mean, and these are guys who already feel as though they don't get any support from the city or any of, the officials or any of the white shirts. So how would you repair the damage between, the city, the state's attorney's office, and the Baltimore City police officers?
Well, I think from the police officer standpoint, I think that's where the relationship began to go bad. But I think many people all of a sudden believe that it went bad because they were charged. It's the way they were charged, but something was even more below the surface people didn't realize. The Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office, and there was a person who's one of the deputies, Mr. Joya. He was the prosecutor under Bernstein who would go into the police academy and train the police on the Fourth Amendment. For example, when they sat down and said, oh, we saw Mr. Gray in a high crime area and he looked at us and he just ran. Well, that prosecutor trained the police officers that there's a Supreme Court case called Wardlow. Comes out of Chicago, deals with Cabrini Greens, and basically this young brother saw the police and he ran, the police just chased him, and the Supreme Court sat down and said, that's legal because of what they believe is called reasonable articulable suspicion, which basically is a fancy word for they had a belief that some criminal activity was about to happen. They had probable cause to pat them down.
So
the police were trained by the state's attorney, and what they did in going after Freddie, they were trained by the state's attorney that they were supposed to do that. So for the police, they're like, well, wait, we did what you trained us to do, and now you're holding it against us. But the person who trained us is sitting on the stage next to you. So, I mean, what's up with this? So think about it as a person. If I sit down and you got a job, and I said, look, your job is to basically, all right, let's sit down and say, when I used to be a paperboy back in the day. So basically, they would sit down and say, okay, you pick your papers up, you got to put one rubber band on them, and you throw them on the people.
I got you, Chris.
And now the next thing is, okay, all of a sudden, I tell you, you're not allowed to throw the papers on the people's steps.
Right.
Then you're gonna feel like, what's going on here? And so I think from the standpoint of the police, that's one of the issues. So what you have to do is you have to regain the trust, which means when you go in there, you have to sit down and explain what the law is and how the law will basically apply to everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a police officer, if you're not. It has to apply to everybody. But you also have to let the police know, if you're going to go bashing heads and you're going to violate people's rights, I got to hold you accountable.
That is true. That is true. Accountability, yeah.
I have one of my viewers said, aside from feeling like you know the streets and know the game and being articulate, why should we vote for you, and what sets you apart from the incumbent, Marilyn Mosley?
That's a good question, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
First of all, I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been a criminal defense attorney and I've been a state's attorney. And it takes a while to really understand the criminal process, to understand how to put cases together, to understand good cases and bad cases. It's sort of like this. When you go to a doctor, if you need open heart surgery, there are two surgeons. One surgeon who you've heard of, who's done open heart surgery 100 times. The other surgeon's never done open heart surgery. Our current state's attorneys never prosecuted a murder ever in their career. The people who prosecuted Freddie Gray, those two prosecutors had never prosecuted a murder until that point in time. So are you going to be with the person who doesn't have the experience, who's never done it? Or are you going to go with the person who's basically done those criminal cases many, many times? There's nothing, for the most part, in the criminal justice system I haven't seen. On the federal side and the state side, I'm a few people that ever beat the feds or something. Nobody beats the feds. So I've understood that. I've had, like I said, I've been before the U.S. Supreme Court, and I've been in California with Silk Road. I've been in the Northern District of Virginia. My experience is what sets me apart. My ability to work with not only the police, but the community, to understand. For instance, one of the things to me that a lot of people don't understand, that gets lost in translation with the community, is, okay, we got to really hold the violent offenders accountable.
Right.
I mean, without a doubt. You shooting, you black, I got to hold you accountable.
Right.
And if you carrying guns, I got to hold you accountable. But let's sit down and say, you know what, when you were 18, you got a felony drug distribution charge, and you're trying to get another job, but you can't, because you can't pass the background test because of that felony. My job as a state's attorney, I think, has to sit down and say, how can I help to make this brother employable? How can I sit down and go before the legislature to sit down and talk about, hey, let's go ahead and allow him or her to expunge this off their record so that they can go ahead and get a job. I think a state's attorney has to also be an advocate for the people. Let's look at probation. So one of the things to me with probation, we
Free
can't...
Meek Mills?
Free Meek Mills.
Yeah, well, you know, hey, that's...
Yeah, let's
talk about that.
Yeah, let's go ahead and put it in context to the Meek Mills case that we almost had a fight in here about Meek Mill. He got so passionate. He started throwing stuff, and he had to take a walk to the parking lot.
It wasn't the fact of Meek Mills, and we're not going to make Meek Mills the poster boy for...
Why? You wanted to do it last week?
No, but if you go back...
You wanted to do it last week?
If you go back and look at the video, I said that Meek Mills wasn't the poster boy for it, but this is okay.
Poster boy for what?
For the unjust treatment of people on probation and parolees. All right, so what we talked about is because let's skip probation right now and let's go into something else. What we talked about last week is we spent a lot of time on politics and making sure that our people, black people, especially poor black people, be educated politically. You understand? Yeah. So one of the things that we talked about is, we need fresh ideas. We need something new. You understand? So besides, I love what you're saying about, working with, state legislators to, and being an advocate for, a lot of these teens out here that's getting these drug felony charges. But like somebody just said, will you be fair across the board when it comes to, criminals and the police department?
Well, for me, that's easy because the only thing I can do is be fair across the board. Let me give you an example. When Remember the video of the man who got beat up at the bus stop, Colin Truss? I represented him.
That was the one on Greenmount, right?
On Greenmount. We sued the police. So I have sued the police a number of times because when they're wrong, they're wrong. Those indicted officers. I told the state's attorney that those officers were no good. I gave the state's attorney's office paperwork. I won motion after motion after motion, winning cases against those dirty officers. When you have a dirty cop, it breaks the entire system down.
Right.
As black people, we don't trust the criminal justice system because it doesn't work for us, it doesn't represent us. So for me, the only thing I can do is to be fair. But I also recognize like this, I can't go after a cop just because they're a police officer.
Right.
And because I didn't have a bad experience. Because I still have to work with the police, but I have to be fair with the police and understand, hey, you got a job to do, but you have to be able to make sure you treat citizens as citizens. What happens a lot of time in Baltimore City, our cousins, our aunts, our uncles, our friends, people we grew up with, people we went to school with, they Baltimore City police officers as well. So you have to be fair across the board.
Right.
And one of the reasons I think God works in mysterious ways. The hardest thing I've ever done as a lawyer was represent Sergeant Alicia White and Freddie Gray.
Okay.
My wife looks at me like, yo, you serious? I'm like, yeah. All my boys are around the country calling me like, yo, you a sellout, you an Uncle
Wow,
Tom,
really?
because you represent the cops. But what I saw in Sergeant Alicia White, first I saw her as a black woman who was from Baltimore City, who's educated in Baltimore City, who went to college out there on the Eastern Shore. Everybody else goes to college on the Eastern from Baltimore City, but came back to the city to help the city, who did community service programs to help the city, and had become a sergeant quicker than any other black woman in the history of the police department. So I saw a black woman. I didn't see a police officer. I saw what she did that day was wear a blue uniform.
Right.
The more I began to understand the case, the more I realized, like, oh my goodness, she called for an ambulance when it took too long. She stood over, she was sitting there praying. This is a God-fearing woman. So I recognized for me, the hardest thing to do is when the whole tide is saying you gotta go one way, is to stand strong to go the opposite way. I had to do that for when I was a black woman. I understood how I was going to be perceived. I understood how my clients was like, yo, base, we represent us. We doing A, B, C, and D. What's going on? I get it. But I also recognize until you're in that situation with having to make a tough call where the whole world is like, what are you doing? Then you don't know how you're going to stand up and fit. Because you got to sit down and have the integrity to be fair. I recognize the state's attorney, I got the opportunity because I have the experience to sit down and really, to me, slow up and eventually, hopefully, end as many of the murders as possible. These brothers are doing murders because they don't have any hope. They don't feel the system and we support them in the community. They don't have jobs. And some will get involved with gangs and then they do whatever they need to do to fit in. I get that, I see that. But I also recognize that many of them will sit down and say, yo, I'm the first black lawyer some of my clients have ever seen. Wow. They didn't even know a black man was a lawyer before me, some of them say. I get that and I see that. So I recognize as a black man in the criminal justice system, I have a role to my clients, to the community. But I also recognize the criminal justice system, it has to work for everybody. So for me, I gotta be fair.
You do? Yeah, so because you mentioned that we can have reform and keep people safe at the same time, but you have this tug of war from the community who definitely wants more police reform, more police accountability. Then you have police officers who feel as though too much reform, prevents them from effectively doing their job. That a lot of tools that they use for policing and fighting crime has been taken away from them. So we want to get tougher on crime, especially when we're at a murder rate with 300 plus murders for the year, but we also, see the injustices when we look at cases like Freddie Gray, and how do we find that balance?
Well, when you sit down and look at the state's attorney's office, almost 87 prosecutors that were there 3 years ago left, so you lost all that experience. So this is one of the things that a lot of people don't necessarily understand about the criminal justice system. When those kids are sitting there and they're locked up, they're incarcerated, they don't have anything to do for the most part but pay attention to their case and everybody else's case. And when they sit there and they're watching their people in their jail cell and their tier, when they're watching them go home off murders, attempt murders, and things like that, eventually they feel the system isn't going to hold them accountable. So if the system doesn't hold you accountable, you're not fearful of the outcome. That's why they don't go out here and start shooting and doing, out in the county. And that's why they don't really, when the feds grab you, they all trying to take a plea because they know they're going to be held accountable. You got to hold the violent offenders accountable.
That was something he just said.
And so where's the breakdown in that? Because we look at the uptick in crime, and most of the, the violent crimes, the assaults, the carjackings, the burglaries have been done by juveniles, and these are usually repeat offenders. You have Commissioner Davis who put the blame on the prosecutors and the judges who are giving these offenders essentially a slap on the wrist and allowing them to be back on the street. So where does fault lie in this? And I know as a police officers, it has to be frustrating when you do the work to get these criminals off the street and they're right back on it.
Well, let me just give you some figures so you understand what's going on in the criminal justice system. Because in the criminal justice system, you got to be strong. So i.e., how do you get your name? How do you get your respect from the guys who are doing those offenses? You got to win in trial. Because in trial's a battle. It's one-on-one. So they did an article in the Baltimore Sun that said, basically you hear this figure, 93% of the cases were winning. 93% of the cases were pleas. And that's
a problem.
And that's you gotta look at that. So why are they pleased? Because you can't win, or because sometimes the case is so good that the defense is like, we need to take this and keep it moving. But out of the 1,033 cases went to trial. 1,033 cases went to trial. 413 of those cases end up taking pleas. That tells me that either the state's case got real weak and they just offered them something, or maybe the defendant saw that the state had their witnesses and all of a sudden took a plea. But then the state, and that's 40% of those cases, then the state dismissed 145 of those cases. 14% are null pros. But these are the two stats that to me mean the most. Of the 1,033 cases, 176 resulted in a conviction. 176.
17.6%.
Yeah. But the problem is 237 cases they lost in trial. That means they losing more cases than they winning. 42% is their win rate.
And that's off of pleas.
No, those are the cases that they take into trial. So that means they're losing them in trial. They only win 176, but they lose 237. So if you're sitting in jail, you seeing 42%. So let's sit down and just round numbers. You see out of 10 people, 6 of them walking through that door. What you gonna do? You're gonna go ahead and you're gonna take your trial. Why? Because you feel you got a chance to win.
Right. So why? That's the question. Why do you think that it's that way? I mean, because if we looking at these statistics and we looking at these stats, the general consensus is that right now the office of Baltimore State's attorney is weak.
Well, folks at home are saying it's done deliberately.
Right. So.
Well, yeah, that was the consensus, right? That it's deliberately to put them back on the streets because nobody wants to see it get better.
Now, we all know what's going on in the state's attorney's office. You know what I'm saying? Because so let's say you get elected. The people go in there, they elect you. What is your first thing you want to do when you get in there to clean up house?
I gotta go back to a number of those prosecutors that left who want their job back, who know how to win cases. I gotta bring them back. And the younger prosecutors that are there, I gotta properly train them, which also means I got to go into the courtroom and try some cases on behalf of the citizens. I gotta try a murder case.
So what you're saying is you're gonna be in there because somebody just said. So obviously because somebody said, well, you got a lawyer like him who wouldn't go to trial, meaning you the shit. So
I would put it like this. I have been very blessed within my criminal practice, but I was a prosecutor. I never lost a murder. They either pled or I won in trial. So when you have a case, the police make the arrest. Then the state's attorney indicts the case. It becomes the state's attorney's baby. Right. So you need a prosecutor who knows how to win a case. So you have to tell the officer, you know what, this person's story is going to be that they weren't in this neighborhood. This person filled out this paperwork saying it's a cell phone. Run the paperwork to see if we can find this person's cell phone records, and let's run cell site information to show if they were in the neighborhood. They ain't doing that in Baltimore City. I had an attempt murder 3-4 weeks ago where it was on videotape. The videotape showed the shooting. The prosecutor was so young and so inexperienced, he didn't know how to put the videotape into evidence.
Wow.
So guess what? Everybody went free.
Wow.
My client was the one who they alleged called the shooter to do the shooting.
Wow. So Daler
They
wants
didn't
to
have
know.
the phone records.
Daler wants to know: are they losing cases because a Baltimore jury doesn't want to convict? Meaning that a lot of people sympathize with the criminal element.
You know, Baltimore City jurors will convict when you have the evidence. They're losing cases because they don't have the experience and the ability to win. And that's because they're young. But you have to understand, when the head state's attorney has never prosecuted those cases, and the deputy state's attorneys have never prosecuted murders, I've done more murders as a prosecutor sitting right here than the entire group of deputies and state's attorney combined right now.
Yeah, and that was one of your
and that
talking
was
points.
2002 was when I left the state's attorney's office.
You say that you want to restore confidence in the state's attorney's office because it's in disarray. So you kind of had some harsh words for the current administration, and you say that the current state's attorney has enabled police misconduct by knowingly turning a blind eye and putting corrupt cops on the stand. And we already mentioned with the Freddie Gay case, but let's talk about the mistrust between the community and the police department. And we also have recent events as far as the police being shown on camera, planting evidence. And then we have all of these conspiracy theories that are brewing around Detective Suter's murder.
Well, I read it. It's funny because I read an article in the paper today about that.
Yeah, and so you look at, we get the information that he was involved in, 2 cases that he was going to testify that had to do with this elite gun squad. So the community is already heightened and the mistrust is already there between the police department and the community. So, and if, not saying that I believe in conspiracy theories, I don't like to add fuel to the fire, but
Yes, you do.
No, I don't. I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
I'm
not, but I mean, if this shit was to come out that there was some sort of involvement by other police officers, I mean, the credibility of the Baltimore City Police is just shot at this point. Like, how do you repair that type of damage?
Well, the only way you can repair that type of damage is you have to put good, thorough cases together. For instance, juries will convict, but you need to figure out, you can get some DNA, your cell phone records, you got videotapes. Officers have body camera. The body camera footage, you need to sit down and know how to use the proper way. The tools are there in the toolbox. And you can't necessarily, you as the state's attorney has to put good cases on. I was winning as a prosecutor. Under Mrs. Jessamy, who trained me, hired me, mentored me. She showed me how to win and how to talk to the community and the prosecutors. The prosecutors, they don't do that. They don't necessarily, it's the same we say, they don't know what they don't know.
Okay.
You just can't wake up overnight and be a prosecutor. It takes years to get to that point because Baltimore City juries are different. Perfect example. If I'm defending a case in Baltimore County, I'm gonna wear a blue suit, gray suit, white shirt, and a tie. In Baltimore City, I can wear a different suit, I can wear a check shirt, I can wear a different tie because they're going to look and embrace and think outside the box a little more. So as a prosecutor, you want to give the jury something to think outside the box so that they can connect with. If the jury can connect with it, they're going to find you guilty. It doesn't matter who it is.
Okay, I got a question. It says, why would you, it said, since you know this information, why would you still defend? It's like being two-faced. While as a lawyer, it's cool, but you become a state's attorney and you want a conviction. So he pretty much saying like you're gonna start prosecuting the same people that right now that you defended.
As a criminal defense attorney, my job is to defend that person, the Constitution, and so that's your job. As the prosecutor, your job is to protect the people. Now, one of the things, and I heard years ago from an attorney that one good prosecutor is worth their weight as 100 good defense attorneys. As a prosecutor, I'm able to sit down, like for instance, I talk about police misconduct. I told the state's attorney numerous times those officers were dirty. I had videotapes showing them planting drugs. They kept using those officers. As a state's attorney, I can make sure we don't use officers when I have that information. It's done. So therefore, I'm protecting the community against those officers that are dirty. But if you're shooting people, you're robbing people, someone who understands what's going on needs to sit down and put together a good case, to make sure we got the right person that did the crime, to make sure we hold them accountable. I don't think anybody's saying we're gonna just not hold people accountable. But as a criminal defense attorney, at least I understand now what a good case is, what a good, if you don't think defense attorneys know who the bad officers are and what officers are lying, I see it. I can tell you the bad officers. I can go out down the list and tell you the ones who are bad, because I've seen them in court. I've seen them in court sit there and lie time and time and time again. The state's attorney's office, once they put that officer on the witness stand, the state's attorney's office is basically vouching for that officer's credibility and saying they're believable. I can tell you, when you sit down and look at those officers, one of the officers, he failed a polygraph test. He had been convicted back in the day of doing illegal things. The state's attorney's office knew this because they had their records. And that to me is something that you cannot do.
Right, so the thing is, like, you know, I get what you're saying, you know, but when one of the biggest problems in Baltimore City is what we talked about last week was, you know, and going back to your conviction, going back to those stats that you gave, it's so easy for someone to go out there and commit a violent crime and get back on the streets. You talk about, you know, your experience in the courtroom as a prosecutor, your experience in the courtroom as a defense attorney. So what you're saying is people would expect you, Ivan Bates, to be in those courtrooms, you know, prosecuting the hard cases that you know that your deputies can't defend or prosecute.
I kind of look at it like this. Every single person in office that's being paid as a lawyer has to be able to go in court and fight. At the end of the day, my main focus to be state's attorney is because these kids are dying. I want to make sure they live. Right. You know, I understand. I see the good, I see the bad. But I also recognize, let's take an example. Remember the young lady who, she was 16 years of age, they burned her house, they raped her and did all that? Yeah. That to me is the case that I felt that the state's attorney needs to try. But you don't make a deal with the man who admits to raping her and killing her. You take him to trial. But why don't you make the deal with the 14-year-old juvenile? Right. You understand? Because he's obviously nothing more than a follower, right, but they go hard on him. And so those are the types of things as the state's attorney, you need to sit down and make sure when you got a victim like that poor girl and her family, the community needs to know that you're going to stand up and you're going to fight for them. Right. And so for me as a state's attorney, I want the kids to live. I want the kids to have hope. I want the people in the community to know that there's somebody who's going to be fighting for them and there's somebody who can go in that courtroom and fight for them.
So you talk about your approach to nonviolent offenders and that an effective state's attorney must have compassion and show the proper restraint because each case is different. And do you think that's something that lacks in the current administration that's going on right now, that the lack of compassion that's going on?
I think they try to do the compassion, but I think they miss the boat on so many issues. Mm-hmm. For instance, in a number of the jurisdictions, when a person has a drug problem, they go to prison, you can put them in a drug treatment program that the state pays for. Once they finish that drug treatment program, then at that moment in time, they can be released. Right. Baltimore City, they're not really advocating for that. Now they have a drug treatment, they have a drug court, but I'm talking about when the person's gone. So say, for instance, you have a kid, you have a man who's 29 years of age, they got one prior robbery, and then they went on ahead and did another robbery. And so basically, because it's their second violent offense, they get 10 years without the possibility of parole. And so the state goes on and files that. So he's getting 10 years without the possibility of parole. But then you find out from what's called the PSI's background, this man has been strung out on heroin and he's basically robbing and stealing to support his habit. I'm not saying the person won't do some jail time, but what I'm saying is that person eventually needs to be in an inpatient drug treatment program to get the drug treatment, because eventually they're going to come back out in the streets. And if they don't get the drug treatment while they're in, when they come back out, they're eventually going to turn back to the drugs, because they're not going to most likely get a job. They're going to get stressed. So what's going to happen? Right. And so that's when I sit down and talk about the compassion, especially when you sit down and look at these kids selling drugs. We talk about violation of probation. This to me is important in the sense that these kids are on violence. So you 18, 19, 20 years old, you sold crack cocaine or heroin, then you have a probation agent. We call supervised probation, and it should be called supportive probation. We need to think about the way we talk about it, supportive probation, because probation be to support this kid, this young man, this young lady to come back into our community. So let's say they get a job. they get a job working for a company, but they got to see their agent 3 times a week. So maybe the 6 months to a year, his job will be flexible. But after a year, the job doesn't want to be flexible with that person because they're not around when they need it.
Right.
Why can't, if you keep a job a year, a real 9-to-5 job, and you send me real pay stubs, and I can talk to see where you're working, why can't we eventually make that unsupervised?
Right.
Because one, that kid, for the most part, that young man or young lady, when they come home from prison, they probably catching a bus, which means they got to catch maybe 2 or 3 buses by the time they get to their probation agent. Don't let the bus be late, because the bus is late. They ain't even gonna make their probation agent who's gonna leave at 4:30 or 5 on the dot, and say they get there at 5:10. So then they gotta find another day to leave work early to get to their probation agent. Okay, you know what, after a year, we just seen your commitment to want to do the right thing. Now we can go ahead and put you on unsupervised, supportive probation, as I want to call it. Then we put you on that for a year. After we put that for a year, where you're sending in your paperwork, your pay stubs, showing that you're working and your work schedule, then after 2 years, we can close that out. Because you've kind of taken the boost to kind of do this. You keep a job for 2 years where you're on the grind, you're working, you're on the bus. That tells me you got the ability to do positive things. So we need to reward that behavior, because that gives that person, him or whoever it is, gives them the opportunity, like, someone believes in me that I can really do something positive. And then at the end of the 5 years, then how can we, if it's not a nonviolent offense, how can we work to hopefully maybe expunge this from this person's record, so that they can then go from having a job to another career, whether it's construction, whether it's working for the post office, whether it's working for UPS, whether it's working as a contractor on military bases. You have to have background checks and clearances.
Right.
We can't get in the door because of the record a lot of times. Those are the things I've learned as a defense attorney. As a prosecutor, we're going to talk about real criminal justice reform. We got to have real ideas and real programs. We can't just keep saying it because it sounds good. We got to know what to do to help them. I'm not telling you because I witnessed this. This is what I saw from my clients through their eyes. Mm-hmm. I watched them. I had a young man. He had 2 jobs. The judge in the county locked him up because he missed a couple meetings. I told the judge, this man's working 2 jobs.
You don't have time to commit.
And this is why we got in such a heated debate last week in how it related to Meek Mills, and how a lot of people thought that Meek had privilege that, other people didn't have. And if we were going to talk about criminal justice reform and how it affects black men, let's not use Meek, because we can think of a lot of other cases where black men who, like he said, are working 2 jobs and struggling to make it, and little small infractions violate their probation, as opposed to someone who's constantly failing drug tests, who leaves the country, doesn't tell his probation officer, who gets caught dealing with people who have weapons on them, who has enough money and privilege to keep himself away from these situations.
Right. But see, the thing is, if you go to Meek Mills, because you keep going back there, so I'm just going.
But no, I don't keep going back to it. You scared the bejesus out of me last week about Meek Mills. You got really excited about it.
She called and told me.
I told her, and then I watched the show.
Even his probation officer and the state's attorney, both of these
So we have an expert here. Do you think that the time that he got was excessive for the probation violations?
My problem is one, it was beyond excessive.
We agree that it was excessive.
I think the judge totally abused their right, because why was he on probation so long?
For so long.
And
that's all I was saying.
And that's my problem, because when these young brothers and sisters are on probation, it's a form of I can watch you.
Right.
So if you get the wrong judge who basically has and I'm not, from what I'm hearing, what I'm reading, the judge had some personal issues. But you get a judge who wants to control the person, then they feel they have you in control. You do what I tell you to do. And that's the problem with the whole Meek Mills situation. Without a doubt, it shouldn't have gone down that way. Probation should have ended. Probation out there, I do it to help you get on your feet. That man's giving other people jobs to record label, multi-million-dollar. Why can't we close it out?
So where does personal responsibility come into play? Because again, we know that the system is messed up. We know that there's so many issues that folk, especially brown folk, black men, have to navigate. So at what point where does personal responsibility come into play? You can't go, failing drug tests if you know that you're on probation. Where does personal responsibility come into play? It's not like, he's tripping over barbed wire because all he wants to do is go to work and take care of his babies.
From what I read,
From what you read.
From what I read, the state's attorney, the prosecutor, and the probation officer asked the judge to release him from his probation. So obviously, I have not read. I just heard Dela said. So I'm not gonna go by Dela. I just heard Dela said. I have not read nowhere.
I read it.
Send me the article.
I read it. It was multiple things. Because usually it leads to multiple infractions, right? But usually it's multiple things that happen before somebody violates probation.
Well, it was, but to me, you also remember the age. He did serve some time. He got out. He was on almost 9 years. When you sit down, you fail a drug test. There is some responsibility.
Right.
Well, then to me, okay, what you do is then make him go to a drug treatment. They said he went to the drug treatment. He had issues, I think, from an injury or something. He talked about the oxy and things like that.
Right.
And that's what happened. And so he went to the drug treatment because, he began to do the things he needed to do. Then what you sit down and say was like, okay, you know what, I need you to do 150, 250 hours of community service, or if you can't do this, then I need you to do a community service project for the neighborhood. Then the community's benefiting from his issue where he sits down and needs to go and talk in the schools and talk about the oxy and those issues. But to me, just sending him to jail for 2 to 4 years, that to me said, okay, I can do this because I'm the judge. And therefore what happens is Black and brown people, as you say, they don't believe in the criminal justice system.
Right.
And so therefore there's a disconnect, and then people, they're more on against or pro. It's no, how can we make the system work for everybody?
Yeah, they re-entrench themselves in the same thing. You be like, yeah, I still don't trust them, but I reckon now.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm saying. Like, and the point I was making was, this. It happened to Meek Mills, but Meek Mills, being the public figure that he is, it kind of highlighted the situation that that black men and black women go through all the time. So we're not making Meek Mills the poster child for the messed up parole and probation system, but I mean it kind of catapulted it and the situation and brought it to light, so that we need to talk about it. And that's all I'm saying. And I said it multiple times on the video.
That's not what you said. No, you didn't sit here and say it like this.
No, because I was throwing out stats. You was throwing
phone cases. That's what you were throwing.
We all understand what your part is. I understand your point.
Right.
But I still, and I told you on the phone. I told you on the phone. I wasn't at the show last week, but all that being said, right? He still know you're on probation. So he need to simmer down and get it and chill out. He need to chill out because he do know he under the public eye. Like with him in particular, or any of these celebrities, they do have access to ways where they don't have to be on the scene at all. So why wouldn't you take that opportunity to do that? I know you want to be out here and
And I know it's unfair.
It's not fair. It's not fair, but it ain't fair. We already know as black men, we just no bandwidth for error. Period.
Okay.
There's nothing. So you're gonna get caught. And somebody is waiting and trying
and
to start you down specifically to wait for you to slip up. So you gotta know that. That's your business. All right, and as a grown ass man, you gotta do it. He ain't 18 no more or whatever it is. He ain't.
I just don't want you to get upset.
I want to go back. I want to talk to Alvin Bates. I want to ask.
You don't want to talk to me no more?
She's trying to bait me in, but I'm not going to let her bait me in. But no.
You want to talk to me no more?
Okay. So we see, and I'm just be honest, because I don't have no cards. We see the lack of leadership in City Hall.
Absolutely.
We see the lack of leadership in the police department. You understand? So you coming in, you got all this experience, you got these fresh ideas, you want to bring to the table. How are you going to work with such weak leaderships to bring?
He may not think that it's weak. What do you think about Catherine Hughes?
I think the leadership.
Yeah, what are your thoughts? He might not think the leadership is weak though.
That's your girl right there,
what do you think about Catherine Hughes?
Well, you put me on the spot. I look at it like this. When you sit down, you have to be able to work with everybody, no matter what your personal feelings are one way or another. So I don't really know her that well. There's some things that I would maybe do differently, but I've never been the mayor of anything, so I can't tell you. But what I can tell you, the thing that I do understand and know the criminal justice system.
Right.
My feeling is this. As a state's attorney, I got to take care of that one pond over there. And to me, what makes a leader? It's all their life experiences. So the life experience from the failure, you know, one of the reasons I didn't do well in school, in high school, was because Hampton, Virginia, when I moved there, I was bused from the black part of town all the way to the white part of town. Mm-hmm. So that was an experience that I had to make me sit down and understand that, okay, you may not understand the system, but you have to figure out how to work within it.
How to navigate within the system.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Then when I went to the Army taught me leadership, teamwork. It taught me sitting down, dedicating. Like, for instance, we would sit down in the middle of the woods and I'm guarding a shack. Ain't nothing in this shack. And they wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning till 5 to sit there with my rifle and don't let me sleep. So you sit down and understand that dedication. As a young prosecutor, I understood how to put a case together. As a defense attorney, I understood who the people were. So for me, leadership was all my experiences, and based on all my experiences working with everybody, I have to work with the police. So at the end of the day, whatever Kevin Davis, the commissioner's doing, I have to make sure my prosecutors would have good, strong cases to win. And if we have to go out there and prop the police up and say, hey, you need to go down to that block, and this is what you need to do, and this is what you need to look for, and you need to go get the DNA, and you need to get the fingerprints, you need to get that, then that's what we have to do. If I have to go over to City Hall and say, look, this is program, and this is the money we need, and this is how I can sit down and explain that and put the paperwork together, then it's upon me as the leader of the state's attorney's office to articulate so that she would know, or whatever mayor would understand and know that this isn't about me, this is for the people.
Right, right.
So one of the things that I'm really big about our political leaders, I think to be a political leader in life, you need to go through something. Because it's only when you've gone through the process.
Right,
for instance, I own my own business. You think it was easy as a black man starting my own law firm? Back in the day, they would sit down and say, you know what, you ain't Jewish lawyer, I want a Jewish lawyer on. So you know how many times I had to go to court?
Especially black folk.
Yeah,
they still say that.
Right.
How many times I had to fight and fight, go to federal court, I had to fight and fight and fight. But I had to understand, to be a lawyer, I had to understand the law. There was no shortcut. It took me every bit of the 22 years of experience to be in this chair to say, hey, I'm actually really ready now for that position. Mm-hmm. And so when you have a person who's a leader, people understand, they're willing to follow a leader. Because right now, to me, Baltimore City's looking for someone with fresh new ideas to get out there for the people.
Definitely.
For the people.
But I mean, we sometimes have people that come about who have these fresh ideas, but we vote against our best interests, and we like to go with the status quo. So why do we have such a problem with doing that here in Baltimore? It's been the same thing for the last 20, 30 years.
You know what? I don't know. And what I see is this. Baltimore City about relationships, so sometimes you look at the relationships. Baltimore City right now is at a crossroads. Mm-hmm. Either we're going to decide to accept the life of 300 murders every year, or we're going to change where we are. And, I'm encouraged by the younger generation who's involved and who they're doing those types of things. That's what encourages me. You know, I'm not a politician, I'm a lawyer, but I understand what the state's attorney's office is all about. Mm-hmm. You know, from being a lawyer. But I also understand that if we don't get the state's attorney's office and the criminal justice system straight in Baltimore City, our city's on the verge of anarchy and chaos.
Right. On the verge? You don't think we've already there yet? You
see the purge, we're almost at the purge.
We absolutely are.
I mean, because the thing is that the 300 plus murders, that's just people that actually died. So there's more violence and kids shooting. That's what I'm saying. It's more than just 1,000
shootings right now. And the end of October, it was 4,500 robberies.
4,040. So
robberies. But keep in mind, they're even talking about the hustlers who get robbed by the stick-up boys. Or all the other people who get robbed, the person that's there reported.
Right. Let that shit resonate.
So who the hell would want a job? Who would want a job like that? Are you crazy out of your mind for wanting to take a goddamn job like this in a city of damned like Baltimore? Everyone says just blow the shit up and start over.
Detroit,
just blow the shit up and start over. Like, why do you you want this job?
You know what?
This is a good question. Like, why?
And it's crazy as it sounds, I want a job because I know I can make a difference. Like for me, I became a lawyer. I wanted to be like Thurgood Marshall. I wanted to sit down and do something to make people's lives better. I became a criminal defense attorney, and I've been blessed, financially. But I didn't become a lawyer about the money. So for me, I need to step away from where I am to bring my knowledge and my experience to people and what's going on. If the city everything was going perfectly, then there's really no need. But I'm tired of losing clients. I'm tired of seeing these kids have no hope. I honestly feel like when you go to Howard, they taught me you lift as you climb. Okay, I'm climbing, but I mean, come on, now I need my people with me as well. So for me, this is really about, I really feel and I really know I got something to give to the community to really make a difference in people's lives.
Right.
That's why I feel you're getting public service. When you at that point where you have your experiences and you can really make a change in somebody else's life, look, there's only so, you can have money, you can go on trips, you can have a nice car. I've been blessed to experience all that. But I also know, you know what about that kid who's sitting over in West Baltimore that wants to have the opportunity to be a lawyer? Or what about that kid who the system's against them? What about that kid who's accused of a crime who really didn't do that, but they just need someone to sit down and look at this from a different point of view? I feel like for me, I can really give that. I know this system. I know this city. I know the streets. Even though I never was in the streets, but I know them from representing them. But I also know the state's attorney's office, and I also know, like with the police, I'm willing to work with you if you're willing to work with me the right and proper way. But I do know from talking to the police, more police who are from Baltimore, that's what they want.
That's what they want, and I feel the consensus, the good cops, they care about their city, and they want to see the best for their city. But how do we retain these good cops? Because, we're in a deficit with over 400 cops for Baltimore City. So how do you not only recruit good cops, but how do you retain them?
Well, I think when you retain them, you have to let the police, just like anything, any relationship that you have to let the person in the relationship know that they're appreciated. It's like, you can't be, like my wife, if I don't let her know that I appreciated her and the type of woman that she is, then she wouldn't want to be with me. She'd be gone.
She'd be gone because they feel as though they get shit from the public, and then they get shit from the white shirts and shit from the politicians. They have nobody to have their back. And we're not talking about these fucked up cops who are going out there not doing what they're supposed to, but we're talking about good cops like Detective Suter who, care about their community and they're trying to do the right thing. These are the cops that we're talking about.
And they're getting burned out. I mean, they're getting burned out. I mean, any job, even it doesn't matter how much you love your job. You understand? You still need the proper, working place.
And even the environment. They talk about the shitty environment that they work in. Like they don't have the proper tools. We talked about that last week. Like their computers, all the shit that they use is like fucked up. Like they need to be brought into modern times if they want to effectively fight crime.
I agree.
Where's the money?
Well, I mean, that's the mayor.
Yeah, I know.
But again,
but that's what strains the relationship and brings morale down.
No, what it is, the state's attorney, you sit down, you work with the police to lower the crime. You lower the crime, more people happy to move to the city, be in the city, more people, more businesses spending money. And so it kind of all works hand in hand. When you sit down and businesses aren't making money, like for instance, they closed, Fells Point, or Federal Hill, if I'm not mistaken, Halloween. Businesses lost money.
They closed down because of the crime.
Really? Because of the crime.
Yeah.
So businesses lost money. So that tells businesses, why do I want to invest and stay in Baltimore City? And so what has to happen is the good officers, you have to continue to work with them. You have to put good cases because eventually they take pride in their work. They're here, a number of them are here because they want to be here.
They want to be here.
And they just want to know I'm appreciated. And I don't think they're all sitting up here looking for medals or awards.
No.
They just want to be appreciated. A number of officers I know were like born and raised in Baltimore City, certain neighborhoods. They saw certain things, and those are things that are important to them. But I also think that's why you got to have people from the community get into the police department so they can sit down because they understand the streets, they understand the neighborhoods. Baltimore's a city of neighborhoods.
Right.
If you don't understand the neighborhood, you ain't going to really understand what's going on.
So what do you feel about the people, I'm sorry, let me ask this real quick, about the people who feel as though, once there started being more robberies and more, crime happening in Fells Point and some of these rich white neighborhoods, there's more of a focus and more of attention to it. When people in these poor, impoverished neighborhoods are dealing with this type of stuff every single day and there's no attention to it.
Well, I think sometimes the squeaky wheel gets the most attention.
Say it again.
Well, that's true, because you got to
We promote for that all the time, personal accountability and empowering yourself and knowing what you can do. So tell us how, everyday citizens can empower themselves, so they're not living in fear with the crime that's going in their communities, but also what they can do to empower themselves to bring about change on a personal level.
Well, one of the things, I have to sit down and look at this brother Stokey. I don't know if you know Stokey, but sit down and look at what Stokey did, from him coming back, coming in the community, putting together walks, talking and focusing on the crime and things like that. They had a candlelight vigil in Locust Point when the man was murdered, but we need to start, having more candlelight vigils. And I know we're having them in a number of the black neighborhoods, but why can't we have one big one for all the people we've lost through this entire year? And so then that's one way you sit down and you look at it and you put it together, and we sit down and bring an attention to what's going on for the black community in Baltimore City. And those are the types of things you do. Just because other people are bringing attention to their issue, that's what you expect them to do. We also have to sit down and use our voice to be heard.
Say it again. We want to sit there and complain.
No, but this is what I think. This is what I believe. As far as you coming in as, you running for state's attorney, it's a huge job, and you got a lot of cleaning up to do. I say, you get in this position, you got a lot of cleaning up to do. But the first thing, I think there needs to be, programs coming from not only the City Hall, not only from Baltimore City Police Department, but it needs to be coming from, the state's attorney office, where, a community liaison, where you actually have people in the fields working with the communities. Because see, the thing, my belief is, if the people don't have confidence in the leadership, it doesn't matter how good the police are. It doesn't matter how good your deputies are. It doesn't matter how good city council is. You know what I'm saying? They don't have confidence in the leadership. They're gonna say bump it, and they're not gonna care. You know what I'm saying? And because with people follow leaders. You know what I'm saying? So would you be open to having a program where maybe the state's attorney's office can be an open door for people in the community? Not only to come and for legal services, but for resources to better themselves, to get out that situation. You know what I'm saying? What?
But is that part of their responsibility?
But and then it also sounds good. But if you look at a city who's already so stripped of resources and money,
But you know why why it's stripped of resources and money, because they want to open up $100 million prisons and close schools.
Well, then they have they increase the training budget for the
they increase the training budget,
which is needed,
right?
Which is a good thing. It's definitely needed.
But I mean, I don't know. I saw a lot of people going back and forth. Well, where we get all this money from? Do all this additional training and all get all these new facilities? Right. We don't got nothing to put any kind of programs for the community.
One of the things, the state's attorney's office right now, they do have community liaisons. I would use them differently. Like for instance, one of the things I feel we need to focus on the juveniles, but we need to focus on them in middle school. So in middle school, you know how many mothers, when I was a prosecutor, would come to me to say, hey, you know what, my baby, no one will help me, he's acting up and he just won't listen to me, and they're saying he needs to be in the system first. Well, then that to me is when you go out there and you have the liaison who's sitting down there saying, okay, this is a kid that we need to steer to a specific program. But the programs are out there. And so I just think the liaisons are there. We need to use them differently, more effective. Right now, they're being used as we're so great, we're doing A, B, C, and D. But people, I'm real big on judge me by my actions and not my words. And so if I gotta tell you I'm great, I'm probably not that great. But if you sitting up there, other people sing your praises. Look, when I'm in court, I'm honestly feeling like I guess I'm okay. because I constantly have to have that hunger that I need to be better. So in my eyes, I'm always like, God, I could have done this better.
So you're not sitting up there saying I'm the shit. You know?
Nah.
Like sometimes people feel like you gotta psych yourself up to that.
No, my feeling is always gotta be hungry. Hungry people want to eat. When you're hungry, you always you gotta get it.
I agree.
And so as an attorney, some days I may leave like, woo, I tore the fur off that witness. But then I'm like, oh my God, but I'm still gonna lose this trial. I'm terrified. But I need every single one of my clients to know. I look at them and say, yo, bro, I can't promise you not guilty. The only thing I can promise you is I'm going to fight.
Right.
And so as a state's attorney, I am going to fight. You know?
Yeah.
So Daylor keeps asking before we let you go, don't forget Kendall Fenwick's. He wants you to share that story.
All right. You know, Kendall Fenwick's a very sad story, but something very positive came out of it. Kevin Fenwick is Kendall's father. Kevin Fenwick is a friend of mine, and Kendall Fenwick was murdered. He was the young man who was murdered up in Park Heights when he was building a fence for his son. And you know they finished the fence.
Right.
And let's give a little bit of backstory. Why was he building that fence?
He was building the fence because he wanted to keep the drug dealers from taking shortcuts. He had young kids. He wanted to stop them from going back and forth on his land and things like that. In his yard, he was just basically trying to take a house and make it a home for his kids.
Right.
And he was doing the rehab work. He was, you know, a young brother, truck driver, had children, worked with, just a really good young man. And I knew Kendall, and this is something people don't realize, I knew Kendall because his child's mother had attacked him, and she was charged. Where Kendall's father, Kevin, he hired me to represent her because they wanted to make sure that she was treated fairly in the legal system.
Oh, wow.
Because he knew his children needed their mother.
That's definitely a good man.
And so that showed me the character of this young man.
Right.
You know, and in the end, we worked out the issues within the case that were there. And then he was murdered probably about 4 to 6 months later. Well, what people didn't realize is, I did the Representative Sergeant Alicia White, but I'm the one who took some of my money from that and I paid for the fence to be built.
Wow.
I bought the lumber, I put it out on Twitter, I did all that, and I organized it.
Wow.
And that was important to me because I saw my friend hurting for his son, and I felt like I needed to do something for my friend. And I wanted to have my friend's son's fence finished because I knew that was important to him.
Right.
I couldn't take away his pain, but I thought I could do something to begin the healing process.
Right.
And I didn't tell a lot of people that. A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know.
And you know, for me, I do a lot. I try to do a lot in the community, but I don't do things in the community so people know who's the person who did it, the person who made a check. I do it because I believe out of the kindness of your heart, it's our duty, like I said, to lift as we climb. And so I can't do that if I haven't done it. I can't talk about it. In my office right now, I have a young man. Back in the day, he was a bad boy. He got 50 years from the feds for being a bad boy. He ends up turning his life around, getting his paralegal degree, changing everything, challenged the case one of the cases that they enhanced him with on the federal side, wins that case in front of the Fourth Circuit. He writes his opinion himself, and he's released. So he comes to me like any person would, want a job as a paralegal. And I'm looking for a paralegal, and he tells me who he is and what he's done, and I'm like, whoa. So then he plays for me. He doesn't have a resume. He plays for me the argument before the judges on the case. And they said, wow, this case was so well written that we wish that person was here. Keep in mind, this brother been in prison for 23 years.
Right.
And it was so well written. I read some of the things that he's written. And then I realized, how can I ever let people honestly believe that they can have a second chance in life if I don't get his brother a shot? Right. So I hired him. He's a beast. Part of the reason I'm so blessed to be good in court and to win in court is because I have amazing people beside me and behind me and in front of me helping. He writes my briefs and my motions. this young brother is amazing. And what I've learned is when brothers come back from prison, you just can't give them a job.
Right.
You have to show them how to get back in society.
Right.
So guess what? I get invited to an event, a fundraiser. Hey, let's go to this fundraiser. You can sit down and see how people are handling the fundraiser. We get invited to a particular reunion party. Let's go to the reunion party. You know, we go out to lunch with certain lawyers and things like that. I introduce him. Some cases, he's been so amazing. I was like, bro, you kind of can have your own side business, and you ain't got to come through me, because I want him to be able to build his own.
Right.
And what I realized is, for us to really change the culture of Baltimore, we have to let people know that they really do have a shot in having a hand up. But I can feed you a fish, but you're gonna be hungry later. Right. I gotta show you how to fish yourself. So for this young brother, he was hungry. He knew where to fish. I just had to put him in the right pond. And once I put him there, this brother, he killing it.
And that's all that we need. So last words, what do you want the people of Baltimore to know about Ivan Bates? What do you want the people of Baltimore to know about you?
I kind of feel like the time period, and first of all, I want to thank everybody for just inviting me, reaching out.
Thank you for coming,
You know, it's real cool. Beautiful spot location. You can definitely tell.
Yeah, we in the boondocks.
But the setup that you have here is good.
Thank you.
I really appreciate you. The energy, the vibe, what you're doing, and everything is real good. So
we do what we can. Thank you. Thank you.
I want the people to know just who I am. I tried within this time period give you a snapshot of who I am. By side, veteran. I'm a father. I had an 18-month-old. So, the haze of a newborn is real. I get it. I'm a husband, but I'm just a man who really cares a lot for the people in my community. For me to walk away from my practice that I've had since 2006, and I just knew I was going to have and retire. And for me to walk away was a difficult decision, but it was an easy decision. It was difficult because I had to step out on faith, and my deep belief of God has allowed me to step out on faith. And I do know that the citizens believe in me, and they put me in that position, that I will work hard for them. I'll give them the leadership, and I will do the things that I need to bring the city back and to lower the crime rate. How do I do that? I do that with putting good cases together that the citizens believe in, that the juries believe in, and that the criminal element understands it's a different day. And that I'm not here to lock you up because I want to, but I'm only asking that you get locked up because you have to be held accountable. And holding the violent offenders accountable, people carrying guns accountable, holding them accountable, they'll sit down and understand they can't do that, and eventually they'll get to their mindset that they can't carry guns, which will eventually help us save their lives. And also understanding that in Baltimore City, we got to be the city of second chances. People don't believe in us, people count us out, but the thing is, when I moved to Baltimore 22 years ago, Baltimore City adopted me, and I feel like my adopted city needs me. So I'm here to do whatever I can. As a state's attorney, I know this criminal justice system for the past 22 years. I've been on both sides. I've seen the criminal justice system through the eyes of victims, and I've seen it through the eyes of defendants. And I know I have to be fair and have integrity and be honest so that the people believe in me and they believe in the system. And then I believe that I have what it will take to get the crime down, to get the convictions up, and to make sure that people are safe again.
Awesome. Wow. They also wanted to get your last thoughts on Detective Suter in that case.
Uh-oh.
I know.
That was supposed to be his outro.
I know, I'm sorry, but they keep asking. They keep asking. And I don't think we got into depth with it. We skipped over it.
First of all, it's sad because you got to remember that man has 5 children, so you have 5 kids, unlike so many other murder victims whose children won't be in their life. So just from an emotional standpoint, just understanding my sympathy and prayers and thoughts go out to his wife, and as well as all the murder victims' family members and their children in the city. But the thing is, something doesn't really smell right here. I can't tell what it is. What I do, I believe in letting people sit back and do their investigation with a number of things. There are a lot of questions that I have. I try not to, when you do what I do in the criminal justice system, if you jump to conclusions, you put thoughts in people's mind.
Right.
And so my feeling is, let's wait until I want to see the autopsy report. I have a number of other things I want to see, the firing the gun 3 times and all of a sudden, one more shot, what was that about? Coming up close enough, taking his handgun, that, the reward money, people talk about $215,000, someone would have turned someone
in.
Yes. You sit down and you look at that. I think that there are going to be a lot more questions than answers when this is said and done. I'm very interested to see, there was an article that was in the paper, but WBAL broke the article first that talked about this one particular case and this high-speed chase.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about.
And so that's concerning. Yeah. That concerns me a great deal.
That was related to that.
Yeah, it was a case, a high-speed chase where the guy he killed someone driving in a high-speed chase, and Detective Suter was with one of the guys.
The officer in charge, who's charged with it right now, is Jenkins. He's one of the 6. He was a sergeant.
Right.
He was driving the car to chase the guy, and they said Suter was in a car behind him that pulled up. So the man fled. He lost control of the car, fleeing from Sergeant Jenkins, and he hits and kills an 86-year-old man. On the state side, he's found guilty and pleads guilty to manslaughter, gets 10 years. On the federal side, there are drugs in the car, and he pleads guilty and gets 15 years for the drugs, and the sentences run concurrent. Well, I guess this brother saw about Detective Jenkins being indicted, and he wrote a letter, my understanding on this, to the state judge and the federal judge, saying, hey, can we look at this situation here?
And they opened it back up.
And supposedly they opened it back up, and based on the newspaper article, and I don't know if this is true one way or another, I guess for whatever reason, they say that, hey, this here is the case that they're going after him about. My question is simple. How does the press know about that? You know how many cases Detective Suter had? How does the press know about that? They're going to sit down, our source. Well, your source had to be very, very high up in either the state's attorney's office or the Fed. That's what that kind of tells me. Sit down looking at that. And those are the things that kind of had questions, because remember in the initial indictment for Detective Jenkins, it said that there was a source from the state's attorney's office that tipped him off to being investigated by the FBI. So that's why I say there's a whole bunch of stuff that's going on with this. I don't know what's right, I don't know what's wrong, but I do know this. Suter had hundreds of cases. How do you know about that case? How do you know about that man's letter that he wrote to the court?
Right, that one case.
So that makes you sit down and understand things.
Right.
And then I was like, well, the state's attorney's office, what's going on here? So that's what the indictment says. So when you sit down and you look at everything, it's just a lot going on.
The suspect, and bottom line.
And a lot's going on here.
Right.
It scares me. It absolutely scares me, because like I said, if it comes back that there was any sort of police involvement and the death
it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't think there's any chance that there's not.
It would crush me.
I can't expect you to think
Right.
But I mean, the thing is, like, it would shock me more if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right. I would be shocked more if it wasn't.
But for a lot of people, it's like finding out there's no Santa Claus.
But I mean,
they still believe in this at this point.
Right, but this is needed. You know what I'm saying? This is needed. If it comes out that a police officer, you know what I'm saying, was responsible for the Detective Suter's murder, you know what I'm saying? This is it would be one of those situations like, oh shit. You know what I'm saying?
But the other thing is, let's look at it the reverse. For all we know, it could have been someone who just took his gun, boom, did the shot, and didn't tell anybody, and then realized who he did, and they ain't saying nothing to nobody.
Right.
So my thing is, let's be hesitant before we jump out.
Absolutely.
I'm only saying that because when the criminal justice system, what you see isn't always what it really is.
Right. And we don't know everything, and they're not going to disclose everything to the public.
Right. I agree.
And I'm just giving you things based on the newspaper article.
Right.
But I was shocked to understand how the WBAL, this dude David Collins, how did he have all this information?
Right. Who's giving you? Who you just?
But a lot of people say that will we ever know the truth? You have the police investigating the police.
Well, it's a difference.
This here is different because it's one of their own.
Right.
And one of my things when the police investigate the police, I think there's certain ways that it can be done or should be done, but I do see the issues and problems with it as well.
And so a lot of people feel like there's going to be a cover-up because no one wants to shine this bad light on the police department. So no matter what, we're going to cover this shit up because we don't want to be out here looking like this to the world.
I think because of the feds' involvement.
The feds are involved,
and
they not gonna worry about the city level.
Right, they're looking at, like, you know, I mean, look at the report that came out of the Justice Department last year in Baltimore City. You know what I'm saying? That 200-page report. So you know it's Feds probably got a hard one for Baltimore City.
But we agree that everyone just needs to take a time out. Let the facts come out. Let the investigation progress. Let everybody do their jobs before we all jump to conclusions with these conspiracy theories and anything like that. Because it adds fuel to the fire. You know, it gets so much bad information going out there where people don't know how to, decipher what's real and what's not. Right. So I think that we're doing an injustice to Detective Suter and the family when we all, hype these conspiracy theories and we repost bad information.
But we us on the outside looking in.
But it's something that we do have to talk about.
Right.
we can't ignore it. It's something that has to be talked about.
The information is there.
The information is there, and we have to talk about it. Right.
Yeah. But look, bro. I honestly, I'm not too big on politicians. You understand?
But he won you over.
You
have a soft spot for him?
I do. No,
and that's big for Malik.
I
know. Your endorsement, Malik the Black Hippie's endorsement.
So I do, but I do feel a sense of sincerity come from you, and this comes from someone who I mentored, at Rich Youth for about 6 years. You understand? So
you feel his passion.
When you talking about the juveniles and turning their lives around, that's where my passion is, and that's where
We already discussed that, John. So we discussed everything. You came to the conversation late.
It's you hit a part of me with that. So I give you the stamp of approval.
Thank you.
So y'all hear from here. I don't.
Your endorsement, huh? So somebody from home asked, "Were we gonna have more of the candidates on?" We hope to. We always invite everyone to stop by.
Someone else might come past, and I might say they.
I don't know. I think he's your first, so I think you got a little soft spot for him.
I definitely feel. I like the ideas. You know what I'm saying?
And the energy.
I like the ideas. I like the energy.
The freshness.
I like the passion, and I like the sincerity, and that's what it takes to make change. I mean, we can't can't be doing the same old things and expecting different.
And just to put it out there, he hates Catherine Pughes.
And I hate Catherine Pughes. And I think I think she is probably the absolute weakest.
She refused to come on the show, so I have a bone against her too.
So, but no,
yeah, she did. We had every single candidate,
every candidate
for mayor on our show, and she didn't come on. She didn't respond to our emails or anything. So I'm like, this is where it all goes down. I mean, this is the people. These are the people that you want to get to know.
Yeah.
So she shunned us. Like, we ain't shit.
Stop
living in the past.
I mean, hopefully we can have some more. We can have some more candidates come on here, and they can talk to the people, and we can hear their ideas and see the direction that they want to take the state's attorney office in Baltimore City. Because I mean, honestly, the state's attorney office, the mayor, city hall, police department, it needs an overhaul. We need fresh people. We need fresh faces. We need fresh ideas. We need passion, and we need sincerity. And that's what I got from you, sitting across from you, and I appreciate it.
And we need you at home to get involved and pay attention, and to why we take the time to bring you these candidates here, so you can learn about them, so you can make informed decisions. Because again, you do have the power to change the status quo, and it all starts with personal responsibility and just voting and taking control of the things that we can change. Because we always talk about the systemic issues, things that we can't change, but we do have the ability to make a small change. And so you have to, exercise that right in your political capital and do the damn thing. And vote and take charge of your city. Take it back.
And for all the people that watch, that ask questions, they got involved in the conversation. We do this for you guys. You understand? Because you are citizens of Baltimore, and you deserve better, and you deserve to see and know who is running for these offices that that can make change. You need to hear the fresh ideas as well.
So the consensus is they love you.
Right.
Like everyone says that they believe that you would do a great job. So mission has been completed.
So where can the citizens learn more about your
And that's what someone else said, that you don't have a huge social media presence, so it's hard to learn and find out about you. So you got to get that up.
Right. So
what's
without everybody knowing my whole age, I'm 49. Okay, now I got.
Are you really? Black don't crack.
So, but like I said, I got an 18-month-old. So I really wasn't into social media. My social media was only my daughter or my wife, my family. Mm-hmm. But I've learned that you have to sit down and let the people know who you are.
Right.
So you can go to my website for my campaign, which is www.ivanbates.com, or you can go find me on Facebook. You can also find me on Twitter as well as Instagram. So I'm still learning.
It's a lot of tricks. I have my kids. I'm 40 years old, and I have my kids. They teach me. They tell me I'm doing social media all wrong. So I'm trying to learn the tricks of the trade too. But yeah, especially for this demographic that we're trying to reach, like the 18 to 35. They use social media for everything. So we love what you're talking about. So you definitely need to get your presence out there. And so we're going to post some things on our Instagram page and also our Facebook. So, and we also, I think we did a promo too. So we paid for some advertising for you. So that'll run so we can get the followers out there knowing about it.
At Ivan J. Bates.
Okay, at Ivan J. Bates.
At Ivan J. Bates. Y'all hear that?
Follow me.
That's the Twitter, Instagram. Instagram.
And all that.
Ivan J. Bates.
Like I said, I'm just learning. But I really appreciate this. I really appreciate and receive all the love from everybody. Yeah. But I do recognize that when you're in that position, that I work for you, the people. And so you asked, would I sit down? I think the state's attorneys, one of the things we as black people want to understand the criminal justice system. I think the state's attorney needs to go around the city to different areas, around the whole city, and explain the criminal justice system.
That's awesome. Workshops, seminars.
I think you sit down, you educate that, because no matter what, whether I'm the state's attorney or whether I'm a criminal defense attorney, if your son or daughter is picked up by the police, just say lawyer. Because if you give a statement, as a state's attorney, I'm going to have to use it against you.
You hear that, black folk? Wait, this is some jewels right there. Say it again. Just say lawyer.
That's all you say is lawyer.
Just say lawyer. Just say lawyer.
Right.
The reason being is because I've seen more kids sometimes be confused about what the officers are asking, and it comes off that they're not being truthful.
Right.
And my thing is, the criminal justice system needs to work for everybody. Now, as state's attorney, if you don't say lawyer and you give a statement, I'm going to use your statement against you because that's my job.
Right.
However, I want everybody to be averse of what the system is about, so you understand what your rights are, because until we believe and we understand our rights, we won't believe and understand the criminal justice system.
I agree.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Love it. Thank you so much. So we're going to take a quick break, guys. Keep it locked. Yeah, let's take a quick break. We got 15 minutes. You can take a quick break real quick. Oh no, I guess we could keep going. We only got 15 minutes. We only got 15 minutes. Yeah. We're going to take a picture real quick.
I really appreciate it. This was cool.
All right.
Appreciate
awesome.
It. Really great meeting you. You have a great day.
Be safe.
Yeah, you gotta get back to the 18.
As long as I get home by 8:30, that means I got bath duty.
All right, so we have the couch people back joining us today. They can't stay away. The couch people love me. You guys can't stay away. I see that. They're back on here. So shout out to Ivan Bates, especially for spending so much time for us. Usually people come in here, they all, hi, Sadiddy, only got about 10, 15 minutes. I can't do too much. So he basically did the whole show. So, we definitely appreciate that. And like I said, when you do these in these type of intimate settings, you get to see a different side of these politicians, which I like. They're not in here with the same, talking bullshit that they do for every single interview, so you're able to see them on a more personal level. So what did you guys think?
I agree with Malik. I thought his answers were very sincere, and I thought that, his general oversight, focusing on the youth and really talking about the fact that he understood there needs to be some kind of changes is very important, because sometimes people just come in, people just parrot whatever's going on, and don't really say, all right, they gonna keep it status quo, or they just gonna improve, they gonna just add on to whatever going on instead of changing.
And it also seems like he had a good balance where, as far as where he spoke about, you know, his responsibility to the citizens, as well as, you know, his responsibility to supporting the police department and bringing about, you know, change and reform. So it seems like he has a pretty good balance. So,
he's sensible.
He's definitely sensibility.
And the fact that he is, I agree with him with the fact that he's actually been a practicing attorney on both sides.
Both sides.
Which helps, because you gotta understand the rules to break them.
Right.
And vice versa.
Right.
So like, you have to know what's going on, and if you're gonna be implementing stuff and making
I definitely, you know, feel like I like the whole idea of bringing, you know, reform to the state's attorney's office. You know what I'm saying? And getting the people involved. You know, and that's huge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
we talk about personal responsibility, but I mean, some people just don't know, and you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You know, and if you got you know, a state's attorney's office that's not just, you know, trying to hit quota, and I mean,
and inflating
and
the numbers.
Apparently, they're not even hitting
inflating the numbers to make themselves look good. So
they lost 23% of their fucking cases.
He's definitely not a fan of Marilyn Mosby, and if you look at, like I said, if you go to his website and you look at his plan, he has a lot of harsh critique for Marilyn Mosby.
So we gotta get Marilyn Mosby.
And so I'm going to reach out to Marilyn Mosby. If anybody has, you know, some little connections, let her know that we looking for her, we checking for her. So
let's talk Baltimore.
We definitely want to invite her on the show, so you know we can hear from her and see a different side of Marilyn Mosby. You know, outside of what you see inside the press, because again, you know, she's made to look, you know, like more of a celebrity than you know, actually, you know, the state's attorney, because of the Freddie Gray trial. So
those stats that he spit out about the win rates,
you can't ignore that.
And the loss rates are just crazy.
You can't ignore that.
That's amazing. I would never think that it was that low.
And you wonder why. You have repeat offenders, and you have, you know, back on the streets, you know, violent repeat offenders. You know, and it was dope how he separated, you know, like the violent, like, you know, we have to go against the violent repeat offenders, but you know, maybe we can do something else for the drug offenders, the non-violent.
So Daler said somebody from Marilyn Mosby's office was on our feed, Antonio Glover, and he made a few comments. So I don't know. I guess he was checking out what he had to say. So Antonio Glover, if you're listening, you know, let her know that.
Or watching.
Yeah, if you're watching, we definitely need to have her on the show, because, like I said, it's important that, you know, you take control.
You can use that and be like, look, he came on, what you gonna do? Right. You got that leverage right there.
Sometimes they get so high sedity.
Oh,
they don't thank you.
Yes.
Sometimes they get so high sedity. They don't. Oh, look at the pretty family. Oh.
In front of your
So like I said, he got Malik the Black Hippie's endorsement, which is huge. You know, Malik don't like nobody, and he holds everybody accountable, and he's gonna get up in your shit. So you know, that's a good thing. I'm going to reserve judgment until we get everybody on here, but I definitely did like what he had to say, and I did feel I feel he's humble. I definitely feel that he's genuine. I felt the compassion that he definitely wants to see a change in Baltimore. But a lot of people said they saw that with Marilyn Mosby, and a lot of cops mentioned that too, that they thought that they had an advocate with Marilyn Mosby. That changed. And a lot of people get into office and they change.
Well, I think there's one question that I didn't ask him, but I was thinking about that, which is, all right, well, the thing is, a lot of people probably go into offices thinking that they can get shit done, or having the actual plan to get shit done. But how do you plan to navigate around what's already in there, where people are already entrenched in it being a shady, corrupt, slow, archaic system, just like when Obama was in office in D.C., right? Like he has all the greatest intentions in the world, but if you can't navigate the people that's still there, who's still with that old shit, you're, you know, at some point you do get, strangled by the system that you have to work within.
Yes, you have to navigate.
And you know, like, it's so much, you know, and it's so much shit. You know what I'm saying? You going in and, you know, and in that Baltimore State's Attorney's office, anybody, Reverend Ivan Bates or anyone, especially
they got a tough job.
If you're stepping in, knee deep shit. You know what I'm saying? Because it's a fucking mess. You know what I'm saying? I mean, just look at those numbers. 23.9%
that's crazy.
No, 17%. 17.6 win rate, but 23. I mean, what was it?
I thought you said 42%.
No, that 42% was pleas.
Please, right?
It don't matter. It's a goddamn mess.
It's a goddamn
mess.
Shame.
It's a goddamn shame.
Right. So, but that was pretty dope. You know,
it was.
So,
I like to see them so candid like that, and I like to see them more relaxed, and they not up on WJZ and all stuffy and shit. He had on his North Face vest, and he was giving us black folk.
I mean, he seemed to be a down to earth dude, and I mean, I think that's important. People, and he had the experience, like he talked about. He didn't.
That's true, Jennifer.
He didn't say nothing. He didn't say nothing outlandish. He recognized the fact that, hey, look, I am a successful lawyer. I'm not gonna hide that. Like I've been doing this.
Brandon says, however, dude is a lawyer. Lawyers don't always win with telling the truth. The mouth says anything. So just like the politicians,
he can be like anybody else.
But I mean, you can. But human nature, you can see through the fluff and bullshit, and you can see the sincerity.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what I look for. I met Catherine a couple of times, and she was just horrible.
She was horrible.
To me,
you just do not like that lady.
I don't like her.
Y'all wonder why she ain't gonna come on the show.
No, but she refused to come on the show even before Malik was a part of the show. She refused.
So she's weak. You know what I'm saying? She's a weak leader. You know what I'm saying? As you can see, we're not gonna. She's not even worth talking about anyway. So I mean,
well, that was good. What else y'all want to talk about?
No, well, so there was a couple of some people thought that it was kind of insensitive to talk about Detective Suter, so soon, even before his funeral.
It ain't insensitive.
But like I said, that we have to, and I know that I've been extra sensitive in some of the information that I get lots of information, and I'm always cognizant and extra sensitive of the information that I'm putting out there, because it's so much misinformation that's going on. I don't want to be responsible for fueling the fires, and I know, I have a lot of friends that are police officers, so I know how sensitive this is, but at the same time, I still need to find a balance in giving people information and putting the news out there.
I still want you to bring some of these police friends.
But this is the thing. We're reading the paper. We're reading the
information's already out there.
And I'm gonna say this. I argue with these these posts and with these trolls and argue with these Trump supporters and these racist white folks and all the time. And I lied to you not. When it comes to Detective Suter, everybody you know what? It's an inside job.
I'm glad that the rhetoric has changed, because when he first was killed, it was, F the police, who cares if another pig is dead, F him. But then, the rhetoric has died down from that. And now all we hear about is how he was such a good man, a good father, a good detective. He was someone that was doing the right thing. And, a lot of people are really upset about this.
But perception, that comes from a lot of, that comes from decades, of mistrust within the police department between the black community. So when you hear
you immediately go to the worst case scenario.
But then you do your homework. You hear the background story. This guy was he was a dedicated father. He was a dedicated husband.
The fact that he was about to testify against all the crooked cops.
That shit is definitely an inside job.
Right. Even if he wasn't, you understand what I'm saying? At some point, you gotta have a little bit of empathy, and you gotta have a little bit of compassion. someone killed a man. Like, there's no need to go out there and spread negativity.
Spread negativity and stuff. But we all want to find out what the hell happened and get down to the bottom of this. So Quentin said we don't need to play the numbers game because it doesn't add up. We need someone who will execute change on foot patrol in the city. Can't sit behind the smoke screen and not be transparent, as such is happening now. Right. And a lot of people do. You don't see it. It doesn't exist.
It's a microscope. I woke up the other day before the news even before the news reported that he was shot with his own gun. Like, I woke up the other day, my alarm went off, and it was like, and the Baltimore City police officer that was shot with his own gun. This is Google telling me.
Right. So it's everywhere. So Johnson said at the end of the day, he's still a black man and he deserves that much respect. And that's what we talked about last week. And that's, my feelings about it. I didn't even view him as a cop. I viewed him as another black man being taken from us too soon. Another good black man, another good black father, another good black citizen that was murdered. That's all that I see it. I didn't see it as a cop. I just saw it was a black man being taken too soon.
Oh, I got a question.
What's the question?
Completely separate from that. So that whole thing about the guy the fence that was built, he got killed because he was building the fence?
Yeah,
was that the reason he got killed?
Yeah.
He just so happened to get killed while he was building
No. He was building the fence purposely to keep these drug dealers from trespassing on us. I'm pissed, yeah.
That's so crazy. And then the thing, shit like that drives me completely out of my mind, though. Like, because clearly, motherfuckers know who did that shit.
Right, but I mean, they got the dudes, but it's the whole point.
It's the mentality.
But then we talk about why would citizens, especially with all these conspiracy theories brewing, why would citizens come forward and speak about things that they know if they feel as though police are going around killing other police?
No, somebody said I'm sorry, it was. I did read that. Someone said it was a mistaken identity. It had nothing to do with the fence.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
really?
It did. I did read that. So it was mistaken identity.
Oh.
So
I didn't read that. I thought that
initially it was they thought it was with the fence.
Oh,
but I do remember because they caught the dude and the dude confessed and it was.
He confessed.
The dude confessed when they caught him.
Okay. Yeah, because I read a little bit about it, but I was like, wait, I couldn't figure out if it was how the fence and all that stuff was involved.
So Taylor said that they did arrest him, but he was someone that was supposed to be in jail from the beginning.
Right, but again, I mean, we just talked about that. Listen, I'm all for accountability. If you go out there, you know what I'm saying, you commit a crime, whatever, you deserve to be punished. You understand? But I do think you're giving. You're giving, nonviolent offenders, like just significant amount of time for no reason. But but violent offenders are just, probation, parole, throw it out, plea cases. I mean, a lot of these murders, especially in 2017, could have been prevented if, these criminals would have been behind jail. I mean, you read the paper, you see the news, and it says, well, yeah, he beat 4 or 5 murders. It was a dude the other day I read, he beat like 6 fucking murders.
How does that happen?
He beat 6 fucking murders, and he just beat his 6th one. That's what I was on the news. He just beat his 6th
but just like you said, how does it happen? Is it from weak cases? Is it from weak evidence? How does that happen? Is it from somebody's pockets being greased? I mean, how does that happen?
Oh, listen, all in all, like, it is, I do think, again, inexperience.
I think, like you said, inexperienced lawyers.
Right.
So Johnson wants to know, is drug dealing considered a non-violent offense to you guys?
I mean...
To who? I mean, it's non-violent in the courts.
Right. Well, I know someone who,
I mean, clearly it comes with violence.
I know someone who was it was a longtime friend, a very, very sweet guy, took care of his family, a good dad. He did not saying he did what he had to do, but he did what he felt was necessary to provide for his family. Never did any type of violence, no type of murders, beating up people, but he was moving some heavy ass weight and he got some I think 30 something years, 20 something years.
Right.
But he got out on when Obama kind of reduced the sentences for, non-violent offenders. So he was released early from that.
Right.
But I think drug dealers can be non-violent. But then you look at, what it takes for you to get that product and put it on the street, and how much violence might not necessarily be at your hands, but how much violence is involved.
It's related, but it's itself is not nonviolent. It's related, but you can't. You're not. This doesn't. The court doesn't prosecute it like that. I mean, that's just how it is. But
so why are drug dealers getting more time than murderers?
Right, and that's the thing. Like, I mean,
experience.
You have people who was convicted of selling weed, getting more, spending more time in jail than someone who went out there, carjacked, robbed, shot, stabbed, beat up somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody can go, go whip their baby mama's ass. You know what I'm saying? And go to court and get a slap on the fucking wrist. But somebody out there that's moving, that's selling some weed, they gonna do some fucking time.
So I almost got through the whole show, and I didn't even finish my Chardonnay. So I know I was drinking Chardonnay, feeling all grown today. So they want to know, what does Cornbread shirt say? Let me turn this around.
Melanin versus everybody.
What does your shirt say?
Melanin versus everybody.
Melanin versus everyone. And is it extra tight today, stand up?
It's a hoodie, man. It's a goddamn hoodie.
We missed him the last couple of weeks.
I'm not modeling this one.
You're not gonna model it?
Stand it up? Oh, I'll stand up.
Yeah, let's stand up.
It's a goddamn hoodie.
The
it's melanin versus
tightness of the
everybody.
shirt. Melanin versus everybody.
No, it's a hoodie, bro.
It's kind of short, as tall as you are.
I mean, that's how they make it.
I
didn't print. I support black businesses. Y'all go buy one of these jumps. Small business Saturday and Sunday. Y'all get
Small
y'all.
business Saturday,
right? You know it's Small Business Weekend, right? Small Business Saturday.
I didn't do any shopping though. I was in the bed all weekend getting prepared to be just fabulous, pissing some people off. So Chris is here. So
photo shoots all weekend.
Chris, you missed the show. I was waiting for you to log on earlier, but we're gonna have to get you next week. I think that will be good. So he's a retired police officer, and I follow some of his posts online, and he has a lot of things to say when it comes to this case, and also a lot of things with the police department. So I definitely wanted to get his views on. Like I said, I don't really put too much stock into shit that people are saying, especially people who've never dealt with the shit that police officers deal with. So when it's a retired officer saying some of these things,
tag me in something.
I listen just a little bit. Just a little bit. And if we had more time, I definitely would have added you to this feed, Sean. But we need to get you next week, and if we can't get you inside the studio, we'll definitely add you to the live feed.
All right, so
yeah. So it's been a good show.
It's been a good show.
Appreciate you guys from
share the video.
Don't apologize. It's okay. So like I said, we had Ivan Bates here, so he was here for the whole show anyway. So we probably wouldn't have been able to get too much feedback from you anyway, Chris. But next week, I definitely want to get your thoughts on a lot of shit that's been going on. But again, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. We can't do this show without you. You can follow us on Instagram at Let's Talk Baltimore. Twitter is Let's Talk Be More, even though I don't think we tweet shit from that account. And our Facebook page is Let's Talk Baltimore. That's where the conversation continues. So you can reach out to me, Cornbread, or Malik if you want to get added to the group. And as always, again, we can't do the show without you. We appreciate your comments and your questions, and we just want you guys to get involved in the process and, do what you can to take control and try to take your city back. I mean, it starts with us, and it starts with personal responsibility and accountability. There's so many things that we can't change, and we don't have the power to change. So let's focus on the things that we can control and the things that we can change. So hopefully we'll get Marilyn Mosby in here soon, and the rest of the candidates that are running for Baltimore City State's attorney. Especially with the times that we are in now, that is an important job. It's a hard job, and it's a job that is definitely important to bring about change in our city. So we thank you again, Ivan Bates, for joining us. So anybody have any last words, any parting words, anything to say? We're glad that Cornbread, blessed us with his presence today, that we were important enough to visit today. We thank you all.
All right.
All right, so we will see you guys next week. Bye.